How's it going, guys? Spiritwolff, the level 100 Feral Druid here, for Warlords of Draenor. I just wanted to sort of quickly go over a Feral Druid guide for this new expansion. And particularly this guide is being done during Highmaul raid progression. Towards the end of Highmaul, Black Foundry is supposed to be released sometime next month, I think towards the end of February. So I just want to sort of go over just quickly how to run a Feral Druid in the new Warlords of Draenor expansion. And this will be sort of quick. I just kind of wanted to do, again, a very quick guide for anyone who's either currently experienced with Feral and or just picking it up for the first time. A rundown of our stat priority. It typically depends on what what level 100 talent you pick, but ideally you want to have obviously agility first, crit is next, mastery and multi-strike are both sort of on the same par, but I'll get back to that in a minute. Versatility and haste. Haste is currently our worst stat at this time, and obviously agility being our best, of course. So whenever you get a chance to upgrade your gear, agility is always going to be your top priority. Now, as I mentioned before, your stat priority sort of changes based upon your sort of what you want to do. If you want to do more AoE, you're going to want to pick up more mastery. If you want to do more, say, single target, you can do more multi-strike. But honestly, I sort of enjoy mastery, and I like to have a little bit more flexibility with my sort of rotation, sort of it to be a little bit more I want to say generalist, if you will. So I picked mastery. So basically agility, crit, mastery, and multi-strike. So multi-strike and mastery are both very, very good for Feral Druids. So try to pick up either one of those the best you can. Versatility isn't too bad. It's fine if you have it on gear, but definitely mastery and multi-strike are definitely your two best stats after crit. So, with that being said, let's just sort of go into the talents real quick. For the tier 15, you can pick anything in this tier, really. Obviously fight specific. If there's a lot of stuff to be dodging, specifically pools or fire, Displacer Beast is a really good option. But overall, especially for Highmaul, I found that there's a lot of knockback abilities in Highmaul. So, Feral Charge, Wild Charge, or Kitty Pounce, as we like to call it, is a really, really good choice, especially for Highmaul, because things will knock you back and just pounce right on top of it. Level 30 talents, I suggest Gift, because it is passive and it also helps, the healers as well. When you are full, which I always tend to be at full health, just based upon my self-healing abilities, this helps heal a random nearby injured ally, so it's pretty cool. If you do find, I actually was using Renewal for a little bit because I did like having a quick instant heal on myself if I can anticipate a lot of damage, or if I know I was going to take a lot of damage at a certain point in the fight, I can pop that and then, again, help the healers out. It is an instant, but it does have a 2-minute cooldown. So again, if you just sort of want something that's passive, you don't have to worry about it. Gift is always a really good choice. Level 45, pick anything. Really, Mass Entanglement is usually what I go with, but Typhoon is also a really good option for fights that have, say, adds that need to be knocked back into something. That's also another really good option. Typhoon, it's usually between Typhoon and Mass Entanglement. It just depends on what's needed. For 60, you have Soul of the Forest, Incarnation, or Force of Nature. Don't bother with Force of Nature. Soul of the Forest, it used to be okay. It's not really that great. Obviously in MOP it was sort of a toss-up between Force of Nature and Incarnation. I actually played with Force of Nature in MOP, Mists of Pandaria, but now it's just, again, don't even bother. the go-to is definitely Incarnation. This is by far going to be your best damaging ability. It's very bursty, and if you remember back in late Kata, early MOP, this was obviously the way to go. And I actually do have a macro set up for this ability, and I will share that with you once we get into sort of the rotation. I can share that macro with you guys. 75. Again, personal preference, whatever you want to pick. I personally like Mighty Bash for the stun. Level 90, Dream of Cenarius is going to be your best pick here on your level 90 talents. Heart of the Wild and Nature's Vigil, and they're not the best, but if you feel like you need to assist your raid in any way as far as healing is concerned, Heart of the Wild, you know, that would be a good choice, you know, or Nature's Vigil. But for DPS purposes, you definitely want Dream of Cenarius because it increases your healing from Healing Touch and Rejuvenation by 20%, and that's awesome. So again, like I mentioned before, I have so much self-healing that I'm usually always at full health, which again also assists with that gift passive ability. So definitely want to go with this. And for our level 100 talents, we've got Lunar Inspiration, Bloodtalons, and Claws of Shrivala, which looks badass, but unfortunately is more of a PvP talent. This is definitely a sole PvP talent. The 5% versatility is nice, and it might be useful in certain fights down the road, but for now, DPSing. DPS increases definitely by far Bloodtalons. You could go with Lunar Inspiration if you're sort of new to Feral or you're learning the rotation. This would definitely be easier to use. It's also a good talent to use if you have a lot of like a council fight where you're you know, multi-targeting a lot. You know, that would also be a good use of that. But overall, Bloodtalons is by far the best, and back in Mists of Pandaria, we actually used this quite a bit. If you remember, it was part of Dream of Cenarius, and they, in essence, took it out and made it its own talent. So now, whenever you cast Healing Touch, it causes your next 2 melee abilities to deal 30% additional damage. So when Predatory Strikes procs, that basically allows you to cast Healing Touch instantaneously, and that's basically what you're going to be using to proc Bloodtalons. And you get 2 charges for this, and I will sort of show you how this works. Again, just sort of touching basis on the fact that Highmaul raid has unfortunately a lot of haste gear on it, which is terrible for ferals, and it's, for me, as far as gearing up is concerned, it's been pretty, I don't say challenging, but obviously you know, in Highmaul there's not a lot of gear geared towards feral until Blackrock Foundry. So once that hits, then we'll be really kicking with fire. But right now I'm just sort of, you know, everything has haste on it, you know, and you'd be lucky to get anything with Mastery Multistrike. So a lot of this stuff also you can get, you know, leatherworking if you have that, or, you know, hit up the auction house. There's leatherworking items that can be made, and you can always re-roll those stats if they aren't you know, what you're looking for. So that's always an option as well. So yeah, so let's get right into it. So I am just in my garrison. There's dummies outside your garrison, 1 for tanking, damage, and healing. So we'll just go ahead and give that a shot right now. So in preparation for any sort of boss as feral, there's a little bit of prep involved. If you have the Whispering Crystal, increases all your stats by 200. That's always a really good option to use if you don't have a 250 flask. And, you know, obviously this has a cooldown, and when you die this goes away, but it's a really nice to have because it's 200 to all of your stats, which is great. So let's just say the tank pulls, or excuse me, does a pull timer for 10 seconds. Some prep you want to do. You know, one thing I also wanted to mention was like that macro I had said before. You want to make a macro for your Incarnation and Berserk and Tiger's Fury. So Tiger's Fury, you want to have cast Tiger's Fury, cast Berserk, cast Incarnation, and I actually call this my Zerk macro. So that's pretty cool. You could pop that and it does an insane amount of damage. And also, I apologize, one thing I did forget to mention was Glyphs. And for Glyphs, you want to use, for major Glyphs, you want to use Savage Roar, which I highly recommend. It's very, very good. Basically, it gives you a 5 combo point Savage Roar. When you cast Rake or Shred while prowling, that's huge. I typically use increase Glyph of Cat Form, which increases healing done to you by 20%. That's also really, really good. For your third Glyph, you can pick anything, really. I really like having Glyph of Dash. It reduces the cooldown of your dash by 60 seconds. I just like having that versatility of being able to move. You could, in its place, use Glyph of Stampeding Roar. That's also a really viable option. In essence, increases the radius of Stampeding Roar by 30 yards. So that's always nice. If the raid needs to get out of something, you can just pop that and have her ready to go. You could use Glyph of Ninth Life, which reduces all damage taken in cat form by 10%, or Glyph of Savagery in place of Savage Roar. But again, personal preference, I like having the 20% increased healing. And as far as Savagery is concerned, if you're just learning the Feral rotation, you could pick this up if you didn't want to have to worry about refreshing Savage Roar. This basically makes Savage Roar passive. However, it reduces its effectiveness by 10%, which is actually kind of huge for us. So it is quite a bit of DPS loss if you do go with this. Well, not quite a bit, but it is definitely a DPS loss. So, but once you feel comfortable with your rotation, definitely want to do Savage Roar for sure, because this will it helps out a lot, especially since you open up with prowling and raking and shredding and stuff. So. That's always, it will be a good thing, and I shall show you why it'll be a good thing. So again, I've got my macro, called it a Zerk macro. You can make whatever you want, but basically what it does is it has my Incarnation, Zerk, and Tiger's Fury all bound together, so it's a pretty dang intense bursty cooldown, but it's really, really good. So again, as I go back to saying, we've got the tank. He's going to do a pull down counter, and what you're going to want to do is obviously with pre-potting, you want to pre-buff yourself, because remember we've got the Bloodtalons talent. So what we're going to do is cast Healing Touch on ourselves. So this is before the tank pulls. You've got 29 seconds with 2 stacks of Bloodtalons. You're going to want to go to kitty form, prowl, and just before the boss is pulled, get all set up, and then if the boss is pulled, kitty charge, rake, and you're going to want to pop your Zerk macro, and that pops Incarnation and everything. Get your 5 combo points up, and then you're going to want to basically shred, and then you want to use Healing Touch, and you want to try to snap your Healing Touch with your rake and your rip cooldown. So when I say snapshotting, that means you want to pop your Healing Touch, which gives you 2 stacks of rake, or excuse me, two stacks of Bloodtalons, which in there you want to use rake and rip. So that's what I mean when I say snapshotting. You'll always want to use Tiger's Fury on cooldown. Again, try and snapshot your Bloodtalons with rake and preferably 5 combo points of rip. It will take just a little bit of getting used to, but once you get it, it works out really, really well, and you'll sort of start to get the feel and movement of it, and sort of the flow of when to pop Savage Roar to keep that buffed, and when to make sure that you have enough time to spare on your rake and your rip to cast a Ferocious Bite. So a Ferocious Bite is another finishing move that you're going to want to eventually start weaving into your rotation once you feel comfortable with the amount of time you have on rake and rip. So again, shred is going to be your combo point generator. Always make sure you have Savage Roar up. Always make sure you have rake up, always make sure you have 5 combo points of rip, and ideally you want to make sure you snapshot your Bloodtalons with rake and a 5 combo point rip. You can also use your Bloodtalons for your ferocious bite. That's also another thing too. So if you've got a lot of time left on your dots, a lot of time left on your dots, you can certainly use it for ferocious bite instead, which just increases the damage by 30%, which is actually really nice. So yeah, that's pretty much the rotation in a nutshell. I can obviously do more damage. It's just sort of explaining the whole rotation, and I'll show you I'll go through the rotation once more. Once my Berserk is up again, I can show you that Incarnation macro, which works really, really well. So again, I'm just making sure I've got Savage Roar up all the time. There's my Predatory Swiftness, which procs Healing Touch. I actually have that macro to my mouse, so I'm going to click that, which gives me 2 stacks of Bloodtalons. Okay, so my macro is back up again, so I'll just kind of show you again how that works. So you just push your macro, pops Berserker and Tiger's Fury. So again, this is when you just want to go nuts. Shred, 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 ferocious bite, shred, shred, shred. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save that Predatory Swiftness. Okay, then I'm going to use it. There's my Bloodtalons, there's a rake, and there's a rip. And you're just gonna pretty much rinse and repeat, and that's pretty much the rotation for Feral in Warlords of Draenor. They squished a lot of our abilities into one another, so Shred in essence now is basically like what Ravage was in Mists of Pandaria, and Rake is basically what Prowl was. So they put the stun on top of Rake, and then they put Ravage with Shred. So just a little tidbit for you. So yeah, that's pretty much the Feral Druid rotation in a nutshell. Again, Shred is your combo point generator. Make sure you always have Rake, 5 combo points of Rip. Make sure that you always have Savage Roar up. And it's okay to cast that even if it's about to fall off, and let's say you have 4 to 5 combo points, I would just go ahead and make sure that you refresh Savage Roar anyway. So when you're thinking about, oh, what should I refresh next? Things are about to come off cooldown. Basically your priority is, if your dots are about to come off cooldown, you're definitely going to want to at least get 1 combo point of Savage Roar, and then start building up your combo points with Shred to get 5 combo point Rip, and to maintain Rake on your target. So and that's pretty much it. So I will go ahead and pretty much itemize everything at the bottom of in the description below, so that you guys can get sort of an idea of everything in sort of black and white, the rotation written down, and suggestions for glyphs and talents and things like that. Obviously I can go in a little bit more detail as to why I picked the talents that I did, but I wanted to make this sort of a nitty-gritty quick guide for anyone just sort of picking up Feral for the first time. It's a lot of fun. It isn't as challenging / cooldown management intensive as it was in MOP, but it's still quite fun. So I hope you enjoy, and if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to comment below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.